Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Professor Oleander, and today, as promised, we are going to be reviewing some skirmish drill. Now, there's a few things that I want to say about skirmish drill before we get into it. Everything that I have told you about guides and the preservation of the line and things like that, throw all of that out the window. Skirmishers have special rules that they follow. So there's going to be some stuff that's a little different in terms of how they move and why they move the way they do. There's actually some stipulations made that they're not to be doing their movements with the same precision as line infantry. You may hear a little artillery going off. We've got some storms coming in. That's why I'm doing this video now. I'm going to try and do it before it gets too hot and heavy, because there is a bad one headed this way. But as I was saying, the exact quote from Hardee's, if I can pull it up, is up here at the top, where it talks about how, let's see if I can find it here. It is getting hot and heavy outside. We've already had one storm come through today, but they're just building up all around us. But it talks about how the movements don't need to be done with the same precision as line movements, and I will have the link to this page in the description, just like I have with the other ones. You have to look around for this one, because this isn't in the same manual that I've been putting up in the other videos. But what it talks about is how using precision to move skirmish lines is not efficient, and that you want the men to take advantage of cover where it presents in front of them. You want them to hide behind trees. They, lie down whenever they are able. Take advantage of terrain. The line being perfectly dressed isn't as much of a concern as being able to keep the men inconspicuous so that they can surprise the enemy. Now, I will say this. I should have said this at the beginning, but I'll say it now. This video is probably going to be longer than the rest of them, because skirmishers are they're a special class of maneuvers, and there are some rules to them. There's some advantages and some disadvantages to them. It takes a little while to go through it. The whole purpose of skirmishers, you can either do it in reconnaissance, you can be doing it to delay an enemy, you can cause an enemy to change its plans, like what happened at Gettysburg. Buford's cavalry threw out skirmishers. They basically tripped up Henry Heath whenever he was coming online. Or, I'm sorry, was it Henry or Harry? I think it was Harry Heath. They tripped up Harry Heath when he was coming online with his division. He was going into Gettysburg to get supplies. May or may not have been shoes. That's a matter of debate. But his whole division was coming up the road, going into the town. He met up with a group of skirmishers. And typically, whenever you meet up with skirmishers, it means that there is something behind them that they are trying to mask, or there is a reserve behind them that is being put into formation. So that played into what was happening on the first day. So skirmishers have their advantages, but one of the disadvantages is they're spread out into a long line, so it's very hard to maneuver them and maneuver them well. They're always susceptible to cavalry attacks, though. The recommendations for Hardee's is that a skirmish unit never be deployed without a sufficient reserve behind them of at least their strength or more. So if you send an entire company out into reserves, into skirmishers, you typically have a whole company held back in reserves. Same thing if you send out a platoon, you've got at least a platoon in reserves. So going from that, we'll just very quickly jump into this. They're very useful, as I said, and there are some safeguards for them, but we're going to do this from the halt. Now, just like all other deployments and all other maneuvers, it can be done from the left, it can be done from the right. Skirmishers can actually be done from the center. They can be deployed from any file. You may number these files. You could say deploy from the 3rd file, you could say deploy from the 8th file. It doesn't really matter as long as you say. And these maneuvers are not meant to be perfect. But like I said, you can deploy from the right, you can deploy from the left, and you can deploy from the center. You can also do this from the halt, you can do it while it's marching. I have thrown in the 3rd Sergeant. We have typically been going without him. This is the third Sergeant back here. He is going to act as a guide, which guides are an integral part of this maneuver. Now, it's not as important that you maintain your lines, but you still need guides to kind of direct the line as it's moving forward. So, the 3rd Sergeant there is actually going to come up to the middle, and he is going to be one of the relay commanders. And we'll see it once we get these guys out deployed. The line's going to become very, very long and very, very spread out, and one of the issues with skirmishers is it's very hard to communicate over long distances. And there's actually a line in this, on this page of Hardee's talking about skirmishers, that specifically says that commands for skirmishers are to be given by the bugle. So there you go with that. So the command for this, let me pull my page up here. It's going to be to let me see, make sure I get the command right. It is going to be, if I can remember correctly, it should be as skirmishers take your interval march. I just want to make sure I'm getting the right command. I had it just a minute ago and now I have lost it. Oh, here we go. Okay, so we're going to deploy the entire company. So the command will be company on the center file, take interval, march. And there you see the center file would have been this guy right here in the middle. He's right. Let me go back. We'll walk through. Let me go through this because I forgot I had done it a little bit quicker. You can do this at the double quick. You can do it as at the march. We're going to do it a little bit faster because typically when you deploy skirmishers, you're in a rush. So we're just going to walk through it. So they're going to deploy as skirmishers. Everybody that's going to move, save for the even-numbered man in the center file on the front rank, which would be this guy. He's going to stand fast because he has now become the anchor of the line. And then everybody else is going to deploy outward. And then you see the first two around him are going to come online. And then if we zoom out, you're going to see the line is going to continually spread out. The men are going to be about 5 paces apart. And it's going to keep on going. You see the captain over there is going to the rear now. And we got a couple more that have to go out. Go through this. There we go. And there's our skirmish line. So we've gone from a very compact unit into a line that is very, very long. And we have the first sergeant over here acting as a guide, and then we have the second sergeant over here acting as a guide. The first lieutenant has moved over to the left to take command of what will be known as the second section. The captain has gone over to the right. He is taking command of what will be known as the right section. And then the third sergeant is here in the middle. And he will serve as a relay for the captain. The captain will give a command, the third sergeant will relay it, and then the first lieutenant will relay it. And then the sergeants can relay it to the men that may not have heard it. So this is why you have so many file closers, is they can relay the commands all the way down the line so that there's a constant, so everybody knows what's going on. Now from this position you can do a couple of things. You can march forward in this line. You can also march by the flank, which would basically be everybody just turns to the right and you can march off in this direction. You can march rearward, which is everybody just does an about face and moves backwards. You can do a wheel, so you can take this whole formation here and then you can just swing it out in a long arc this way and move it around. And that's about it, to be honest. Now that was a deployment from the halt. One other thing about deploying as skirmishers is that when you're moving by skirmishers, it's basically arms at will. I can't remember. I should have wrote these down, but there is a line in Hardee's that says that the men may carry their rifles as they see fit. So typically you could carry it at what would be now known as port arms, kind of out in front of you, off to the side. You wouldn't want to sling it because you would have to be able to fire with it. But these guys would start moving forward, and they would keep on going until they engaged the enemy, and then they would start taking cover and whatnot. So that's the deployment from the rear. Or I'm sorry, not from the rear, from the halt. One thing I want you to notice is they are alternating ranks. You see that you have some of the 2s together and some of the 1s together. In this formation, the numbers don't matter. What matters is front rank, rear rank. So this corporal was on the front rank. This is a rear rank man. Front rank, rear rank, front rank, rear rank. And it alternates all the way down until you get down to the very end. You have a front rank man and then a rear rank man. And that will come into play whenever we get into firing. So with that being said, let's move over into deploying on the march. Now, deploying on the march is a little different. What will happen is when you deploy on the march, depending on where you deploy from, we're going to deploy from the center again. You're going to be in what's in a group of 4s. They're sometimes called comrades in battle. I don't know that there's another name for them. It's not in the drill book as comrades in battle, but that's what you'll hear it called to, especially if you're reenactors. So you'll be in groups of 4. So this is the first group of 4, this is the second one, and then the center, and then the so on down the line. Now what will happen is we'll be marching forward, and it'll be the same command. It will be, let me just double check and make sure, it should be the same command. Yeah, it should be company as skirmishers, take interval, yeah, company as skirmishers, on the center file, take interval, march. So So as company as skirmishers, take interval, march. And then you'll see the center file will keep marching forward. All of the other files will oblique outwards. They'll be marching off at a 45-degree angle in this direction. And then these guys will be marching out at a 45-degree angle in that direction. And what they will do is they will get, and this is where the number 2 man will have to kind of earn his keep. The number 2 man in each one of these is basically like a squad leader. They're in charge of the group of 4. They will tell them where they need to go. They're keeping the distances and whatnot. But they will go out until they achieve an interval of 20 paces between themselves and this file. So you'll see them go out, and then they will turn straight ahead. Once they turn straight ahead, they will then try to catch up with the center file here. Pay no attention to the 3rd sergeant. He's kind of off on his own thing. They will double quick trying to catch up to the first file, to the center file, and then the other groups are going to get their 20 paces, and then they are going to try and catch up with the center file. And then what you will have happen is you'll get everybody more or less on the same line, and you would continue doing this until you're given the command halt. So once they get online, you would just keep marching forward. You would keep your intervals in between each one of these groups, and then When the captain gives the command to halt, you would automatically deploy. So the number 2 man in each one of these files would stand fast, and then the other men would go to their respective positions. So, I didn't mean to do that, but let me scrub forward here. Hit the wrong button. So there we go. So when they get the command halt, they're going to come up to, they're going to stop, the number 2s are going to stand fast, and then everybody else is going to deploy outwards. And then the captain's going to come back over here and he's going to take charge of the first section. And then that's the deployment on the march. So more or less the same thing as on the halt. Now from this position, you notice that the line is somewhat wavered, and that's perfectly acceptable. Like I said, it's not as critical that they maintain their dress in this formation. So the next thing that we can do is we can do what's called skirmishing in advance, or skirmishing in retreat. So say there is an enemy to our front and we want to begin firing at them. Now you can fire from the halt, and that is perfectly acceptable. As a matter of fact, it's encouraged. The fire will alternate between front rank and rear rank. So the front rank will automatically fire first, and then they will reload. The second rank, or the rear rank, won't fire until the front rank has reloaded. And the principle behind this is that you always have one rank loaded at a given time. This is in case you're pressed. If an enemy pops up over a hill, or if they decide they want to charge, you still have one full rank loaded so that you can deal with them in case they do decide to charge. So they will alternate back and forth. The captain may wish to advance the company and continue firing. What he will do is, there's no specific command for this. It's been said a couple of ways. He might say forward march or advance while firing. The most common command that I heard when I was reenacting was to skirmish in advance march, or a skirmish in advance commence firing. And at that point, what would happen, the front rank man would fire, and then the rear rank man would move forward. So let's go through that again. So you would get skirmish in advance, or fire in advance, or something along those lines, commence firing. The front rank man would fire. As soon as the front rank man fires, the rear rank man will double quick forward. They will come up to a new line of roughly 5 to 10 paces or so ahead of the front rank. The sergeants will come up to mark the line. Now you notice that there is a little bow in it, and that's perfectly acceptable. Once the front rank man has relayed to the rear rank man, so this corporal right here will tell the rear rank man that he's ready. As soon as he tells him that, the rear rank man will fire, and then the front rank will come forward. And they can do that as many times as you want. You can cover entire fields like that if you wanted to. This is also called the leapfrog thing or whatever, and they will just keep alternating. Once one rank fires, the next rank will follow through. Then once that rank fires, the previous rank will follow through, and you just keep on rolling it forward. When the company commander or whoever decides that they have gone far enough, they will give the command halt. When that happens, the line stops at the furthest rank of advance. So whichever rank is farthest, or basically wherever the sergeants ended up, the line will come up to them. And then you will continue to alternate your fire between front rank and rear rank until you get the command ceasefire. Now, you can do this in reverse as well. You can do it in retreat. So he might say something like skirmish in retreat, or fall back while firing, or something along those lines, commence firing, and that'll be just the reverse of it. So the manual says the front rank would go first. To me, it really depends on who's loaded. In this one, we're going to assume that the rear rank is loaded, so they're going to fire, and then they're going to start falling back. And then the front rank, as soon as the rear rank is loaded, then they're going to fall back after they fire. And it's going to keep on going like that, and we're going to assume you get the command to halt, and then everybody's going to come back to the same line. So I hope that didn't confuse everybody. So again, skirmishing in advance, leapfrogging to the front, starting with the rear rank after the front rank fires, and then the front rank will come forward, and then you get the command to halt. Then everybody will come up to the same line, the furthest line of advance, and then when you skirmish to the rear or skirmish and retreat, whichever rank has loaded will fire, and then they will fall back. And then the next rank will fall back after they fire. And then when you halt again, everybody comes back to the farthest line of retreat. So, the next thing to go over is how to get back out of a skirmish line when you are in, when you want to get back into a company formation or whatever. There's two different ways to do it. I'm only going to show from the halt because skirmishing, because doing it on the march is basically the same thing as deploying on the march. You'll get back into your groups of 4, and then you will just come back together and line back up. So it'll be when you were deploying on the march in reverse. Everybody's marching back towards each other as opposed to marching back away. Some of them will have to double quick, some of them will have to half step, but you just kind of have to gauge it. So to assemble, the command will be assemble on the right, assemble on the left, assemble on the center file. When you're doing it from the halt, Hardee's recommends, or as it is said in Hardee's, the groups of 4 will come back together. I've never liked doing it that way because it wastes time. Because what will happen, this will, let's see, front rank, rear rank, front rank. This is the front rank number 2. This is the even file, so he is the leader of the group. What would have to happen is, if you go according to Hardee's, this guy has to come back this way, then these guys have to come over here, and then the whole unit as one will turn to the right, and then, or turn to the left, and then they will double quick back towards the center. It makes a lot of unnecessary movement. Same thing down here on this end. On this end, let's see, the even numbered file, they would have to assemble on him. So this guy has to come this way, but both of these guys have to come over. So he has to come 20 paces this way, or yeah, he has to come 10 paces this way. He has to run back over here and then have to run back. So I've never agreed with how to do it. The reason why they want you to do that is because they have what's known as rally by 4s. When you rally, it means that there is an immediate threat. So when they say rally or rally by 4s, that means get back into your group of 4s, because either cavalry is getting ready to charge you, or infantry is getting ready to charge you, or one of the things, or something like that. There is an immediate threat, and you will function better in smaller groups than you would being spread out like this. Because cavalry can absolutely wreck this formation. Because the men are so spread apart, there's no defense against horses charging at them, because horses do not like to charge against solid walls of men. That's something I didn't touch on in the last video, but there was a study done several years ago about cavalry charges, and they found out that even the highest trained horse will not charge against a wall of soldiers. They did this with some dummies and some hay bales and some simulated weapons, and had horses run at it in a dead gallop, and they just would not charge them. So the reason why the manual says that you should rally by 4s or assemble by 4s and get back into your groups is so that while you're assembling, because the formation is even more vulnerable at that point, because remember in the last video I was talking about any time that you're having to maneuver, you're vulnerable. The reason why you would go into 4s is if cavalry does decide to come after you, you can do guard against cavalry, which is basically a group of 4s, each one of them facing in an opposite direction with bayonets fixed, so that way that they can guard against horses that may be coming after them. But in this one, I'm not going to do it that way, because this is a lot simpler. Also, because War of Rights does not have cavalry now. In the future, if it gets it, I may decide to cover it. But for right now, we're going to assemble on the center file, which is again going to be this guy right here. So everybody is going to face inwards. So the left flank of the company is going to face to the right, and the right flank of the company is going to face to the left. And then, whoops, wrong one. This one. Everybody's going to face inward, and then they're going to book it, and they're going to start forming the company right back to the way it was. And there you go. That is to assemble the company on the center file. And like I said, you can assemble it on the right, you can assemble it on the left, and you can assemble it by any given file. So that is about the extent of skirmishers. One other thing that I didn't mention about skirmishers is they typically don't have bayonets fixed because it can give away their position. If you're trying to hide in the woods or something like that, you don't want this big shining bayonet sticking up and hiding giving away your position. So that is skirmishing. I think I have covered everything as best I can. Didn't quite take as long as I thought it would, but I didn't want to include it into anything else because like I said, it's in its own class of rules regarding the advance, and like I said, skirmishers are told to take advantage of any cover that might be in front of them. But the most important part of skirmishing are these files. The front rank is referred to as the file leader, and then the rear rank is basically following them. And it's the same thing on the deployment. When you deploy, you're following your file leader. Same thing when you're advancing and retreating, you're going by your file leader. So that's just something else to consider. I really can't think of anything else to say on it. I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible, but that is skirmishing as best as I can explain it for use in games like War of Rights. So I'm going to leave it at that. I have not decided what the next video is going to be on. We're actually going to be, I believe we're going to be doing some drill tonight here in a couple of hours. So the 1st Texas has actually mentioned that they will be doing drill sessions every Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, on the Confederate server in War of Rights. So I will be in there tonight, and I'm sure that there will be several others. So I will see you then if you can make it, and if not, I will see you next time. Take care.